and my listeners out there. This is 954 Miles of Conversation podcast. This is episode 19 for 954 Miles of Conversation. Um, this episode is Indi's journey, faith through fire. I have to talk a little bit about my guest before I get into some things because we met. I was actually met her at Wendy's. We had a great conversation during the first time we met, and then not too long ago after I got off of work at the state fair, I was coming home and I was hungry, and so I was coming through the drive-through, and she was actually working. So when I got there, got my food. She had this smile on her face, which is fine. And then all of a sudden, she started asking me questions about the fair. And so we done had a dialogue about the fair and just different stuff right there in the drive-through line. And I asked her, has she ever been on the podcast? She said no, and she would like to do one. So we wind up getting together and doing this show. And so that's what we come up with. And one of the things that I like about her is that she's real. And if you know about 954 Miles of Conversation, we put real people on our podcast. We don't try to get the popular people, the famous people. I don't. I like real people, and I have a real person in her. And so she sent me a bio, and I'm going to read this bio because I was very impressed with her bio. At that particular time, I was like, wow, this is the first time I ever got a bio from a guest. So I was impressed with that, you know. So I'm going to read her bio. It's Indi Kaur, if I'm pronouncing it last. Is that correct?
You got it. Yep.
Okay, I got it. Okay, I didn't mess the name up. Okay, I'm good. Okay, is is a British born of East Indian heritage. Indi came to the United States as a child and lived a mostly cookie cutter American life until life took an interest twist and turbulence at times. In short, she's a survivor of domestic and sexual abuse, and her experienced a period of incarceration and a house fire where she lost everything. She is the mother of three beautiful daughters and has to rebuild and reinvent herself and for forge forward. Today, while still facing challenges, she holds on to her faith, her attributes, her strength in God for making it this far. Her life is a testimony to overcoming, and she hopes to share that with you today. Which I've heard the story because we have talked a little bit about your story. I was very impressed with it, and I think you didn't even know that I had some backgrounds in certain things until I told you today. So
Yep.
enlighten on that. So with that being said, I want to start this conversation out because I definitely want my viewers and listeners to hear your story because sometimes people don't realize that when we go through trials and tribulations in our life and our experiences, other people are going through it as well. So you're not the only one, and I'm not the
Right.
only one. So what I like about my show is that we giving content of that. Maybe when someone hears your story, they can feel to say, okay, she made it, she's going through it, I can do it as well. It can be a very instrumental and spiritual thing for others. And so that's what I like about what we present on 954 Miles of Conversation. Um, we are exploring boundless conversations 1 mile at a time. Even though we're both in Texas, and I'm going to be honest with you, you were my first guest
Oh
that I've
wow.
had in this area in Texas. So
That's
I'm
awesome.
very appreciative of that. But your story is going to be a enlightening and a testimony for everybody to hear. Um, can you give me a personal background about your life in your own words?
Absolutely. My life has. I mean, I grew up. definitely, as a standard child in Allen, even when I grew up in England, I left England when I was 7, but we have a huge family over there. So, I my life consists of family and love and um, if I was to describe my life to you, it would be that I walk every day in faith and I walk every day trusting that God is going to take me through today. Sometimes I'm in a position where I can't think about tomorrow, that I have to live in today and just trust that God is going to get me through. Um, my life could have been worse, could be worse. I could not wake up to see my children every day, or I could be in a different setting. And so every day, right now, my life, I begin my day by saying, "Today I shall not be defeated."
Mm,
And I thank God for just waking me up today.
okay. And let me the cultural transition from London to United States. How was that significant change as a child? How was that?
It was intense. It was intense. I came over to the States with this weird British accent and first day of school, kids, kids are horrible these days when it comes to bullying, but back
So
then it was a little lighter. but
okay.
uh but I really had to conform, and I feel like I couldn't figure out my identity because I couldn't be the British Indian girl that I came over to be. And My mom did marry outside of our culture, which was different for her. She was the first one to do that. She was the first one to get tattoos in our family.
Oh,
Um,
she set the trend on everything.
yeah, and she was the first one to get divorced in the family as
Oh
well. So,
wow.
yeah, she dealt with abuse as well
Oh
from
wow.
my biological father, but it was a culture shock. Yeah, I went from having a huge family, and I'm talking like get togethers, 20, 30 people in the house. I mean, people not leaving till like 2 o'clock in the morning, to it just being myself, my mother, and my stepdad.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. I'm going down. I always say that when I send people to send my guests the questions, I start off with these questions, and then all of a sudden, I like something hit me, like, ooh, I want to say, I'm gonna ask this, I'm gonna ask this. Um, I want to talk about your facing your adversity,
Hmm.
because do you think that some of the adversity that you faced as growing up and in your life, did it stem from your childhood of dealing with your mother's abuse and all that?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I do, and it's sometimes this gets to be a touchy subject with me and my mother because it was a big deal for me to, as a child, to transition from the UK to the US, and um, it being not, I don't want to say taken, but not being around my family as much was had a huge impact. But it was tough. I mean, sometimes now, being 35 years old, I still deal with it. I mean, when my grandma gets on the phone, when I video her, I cry like a baby, because I
Wow.
miss her. And
Hmm.
with my grandpa now, unfortunately, right now, my the elders in my family, they are experiencing health issues, and I just want to be there. But going to England is just not, especially in my case right now, dealing with what I'm dealing with. It's just not easy to hop on a plane and just go. So it's been tough. I've held a little bit of resentment towards my mother for making choices that she did, but I understand why she did it.
Okay.
So yeah, it's definitely been tough. But I will say, if I was still in England, although my life may be different, I would not have the relationship that I do right now with God.
Oh,
I do
okay.
know that.
I'm finna hit some heavy stuff here now, because we don't had this conversation um, about your experiences with your downfalls and going through the abuse, the sexual abuse, or whatever it may be. And you can get it great detail as that if you want to. I mean, it's up to you. There's no judging here. I can tell you that. And then my viewers and my listeners, they won't be judging you because, like I said, you'd be surprised at what people are going through today. And for you to come on my show to have this conversation, it is a plus. Maybe it might help someone else who hears this. So
Absolutely.
let's talk about your abuse. Let's get into that.
So, the abuse. I was married to my children's dad for 8 years, and a lot of the reason why our marriage ended was there was infidelity in the marriage. I was slaving at a job, and um, he just didn't have that work ethic of, hey, I have children, let me take care of my family. It was me who was the go-getter, who was consistently taking care of the family and holding, essentially what society's role of a man is now, considering the family.
Yeah.
And then doing that, getting pregnant, having my children, and being at work, working a 12-hour shift, and getting a phone call, hey, baby girl just took her first steps. I just wanted to let you know. As a mother, that just, it's like, oh great, but in your head you're like, I'm missing my baby's first steps, because I'm slaving at a job, because I got to feed my family, because you don't have that go-getter. So he did have some controlling sides as well. I mean, I had to dress a certain way. I couldn't wear makeup. And he stripped a lot of who I was. And so I chose to exit myself out that situation. And I'm going to speak spiritually, because that is who I am. Um, the devil came right in, and he
Wow.
came right in and brought a man into my life that I thought was perfect. And when I tell you, the first year everything was perfect, I'm talking about, you couldn't have asked the things, those, every girl sees those memes on Facebook where he decorates the room and puts the I love you with the flowers. This was that man.
Oh, it was peaches and cream in the
Oh,
beginning, huh?
it was beautiful. I'm like, oh my gosh, my knight in shining armor.
Yeah.
He'd pull up to my job with flowers. It was just great. The affection was there. Even if it wasn't materialistic, it was, he just gave the right affection and attention that I needed and that I was lacking. And within a year, it's like one day he picked me up. I said something, and I was just being funny. It was just a joke, and he slapped me dead in my mouth.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was the day abuse started, and it didn't stop. It didn't stop
Oh,
until he got taken away.
okay, so that particular day was a turning point in your relationship. Were y'all married at the time or what?
No,
Y'all
no,
was dating. Y'all was dating.
exactly.
Okay, so how long did y'all date?
We dated for a year,
So you dated a
and
year,
a year and a half, a
a
year and a
year and a
half.
half. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and when he slapped you, what went through your mind?
So it's funny because that song "Return of the Mac."
Yeah.
So he was playing that song, and I just made a joke like, "Oh, is that how we're feeling? The Mac has returned." And
Oh, no, you
he,
didn't go there, did you?
I did, I did, and I just laughed. I just laughed. It was just a simple joke, because we joke like that all the time. Just like with that Glorilla song, 7 p.m. Friday.
Yeah.
It was just that type of relationship. And when he hit me,
Whoa.
I was stunned. I was in shock. I couldn't even move. And I just looked at him, and his eyes were black.
What you
His
mean?
his eyes, I kid you not, his eyes were so dark. And he looked at me and he said, "Shut your mouth and don't speak the rest of the way home."
Ooh,
Immediately, I felt fear.
okay.
Immediately, I felt fear. But the man that he is, when we got home, hey, get changed. I'm going to take you to dinner. And then he apologized. And then he bought flowers. And then he, hugged me and he was like, babe, I'm so sorry. That's not going to happen again. So those words started coming out and they were believable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you know, and I told you that I was a retired detective. I
Hmm.
did domestic, I did robbery, I did homicide, I did intelligence, and also I worked on the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force. So I handled domestic and international terrorism in the state of Arkansas, basically, and the United States, because I worked in the United States as a whole. But as a domestic detective, I'm finna change my hats. I saw those things as an investigator, and those signs that were on the wall then, prior to that police report getting made.
Hmm.
Um, you chose to stay there after
I
that
did.
first hit. You chose to stay there, but you had an option to leave if you chose to.
I did. Yep.
Yeah, but you chose to stay there,
I did.
and maybe at that particular moment, you was like, okay, maybe he's not going to do that again. Did it occur again?
It did. It occurred the next day.
Whoa! So first hit the first day, then the second hit.
Yep.
So
Now,
we got two hits in 1 week.
so the second day was a little traumatic. The second day, he picked me up from work. He started not letting me drive to work.
Mm,
And there were comments being made like, "Oh, why are you dressing like that to work? Who are you trying to impress?" And one thing I'm gonna say, like when I'm in a relationship, I am a loyal female. I am, you don't have to worry about any of that. I was working in a real estate office with big clients, and so we were expected to dress nicely.
right.
And he was intimidated. That night he picked me up from work. I got off a little late, and he was like, "Oh, what were you doing up there?" And I said, "We had a closing late. I'm sorry. Thank you for coming to get me. Just trying to keep the peace. Like, what do you
Yeah.
want to eat?" And he said, "Shut up." I said, "Okay." So I was quiet. So we're driving, and I'm like, "Where are we going?" And he said, "Didn't I tell you to shut up?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry." So I'm
So
clenching on
let me
to.
ask you. I gotta ask, how old are you at this particular time? How old are you?
So I was 31.
So you 31.
Hmm.
So and you 35. So this is some recent stuff here.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was 30.
30. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, it is recent. He pulls over into this parking lot in Carrollton by our house, and it has like a building that's coming up, and he has a gun in his hand, and he said, "Open your mouth."
Ooh.
And so immediately, I started crying, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Open your mouth." So he puts the gun in my mouth. It's a black, I'm sorry, it's a gray nine. And still remember the feeling of cold metal being put in my mouth like that. And he cocks it. And so I could just imagine the fear. And I'm looking at his eyes again, and they're dark. They're completely dark. And I'm just in my head, I'm just thinking about my children. Like I'm
Okay.
thinking about my babies, and I'm just like, immediately asking for forgiveness. Like, God, look, if this is it, like, I ask that you protect my children. I ask that whatever this man is dealing with, I bind it in the name of Jesus. Like I know this is nothing but the devil. And I was in a point in my life where I wasn't as strong in faith like I should have been, but I knew that when you're down, you pray. I knew just from my grandma, I knew that, hey, I used to always hear her. Hey, when something goes on and you don't know, you immediately pray because God gonna hear you.
Mm.
So he says, if you ever leave me, I'm gonna kill you and I'm gonna kill those kids.
Now these are his kids.
No, those aren't his kids.
Okay. So
No,
the children that you had prior to him, they didn't belong to him.
they did not. No,
Okay. Okay. Okay.
no.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And so going in motion, I um I was operating in fear. I was operating in fear. He did have a background. He was somebody who used to be in the streets, but and I knew his family. He had a great family structure. Knew them in high school. Um,
So this is somebody
mhm.
you just didn't meet this guy off the street. You kind of
No.
knew him.
Exactly. Yeah. I knew his brothers. I knew, his family,
Oh wow.
golly, his grandma was just an amazing woman, a God fearing woman. And yeah, I would never thought that he would turn into this person. And after that day, because he knew he instilled fear in me, that was his platform to do whatever he wanted.
So fear was the motivation to keep you in control,
Exactly.
and he was successful with that. I mean,
Very, very. He deserves a medal in intimidation because I believed his word. And any person that does that, they've got to be a level type of crazy. He began to control what I wore. He began to control my conversations with my family. And he was put wedging himself between me and my mother, and I was letting it happen. And it was just, it was into a point where I was just like, it was, if I didn't get hit, it wasn't normal.
mm. So I'm finna ask you something, and that what your kids, are your kids seeing this?
They saw a lot of it, and that's a
Okay,
guilt that I hold
and as
bad.
your kids, 'cause I'm finna show you, I'm finna say something here. I'm finna break this is a chain here because you done saw it with your mother.
Hmm.
Okay, now you are in a relationship. May not be the same as your mother, but it's still an abusive relationship.
Exactly.
So here is the chain that is going, that cycle is constantly going. Now your children are witnesses happening to you. And
Exactly.
they are seeing this, you go through this. What as a mother in your motherhood at this thing, what is going on in your mind when it comes down to them and what they're viewing happening to you as a person?
So when they would see little bits of it, they would hear us argue. They would see little, they saw probably about 2 episodes of the physical abuse. But kids aren't dumb. I mean, they see the bruises, and you can only say that you fell so much
Right, right.
before they start asking questions. So my mind was, I've got to get away, but I was in so much fear that this man, and a lot of people have said, well, you could have just left. I know there was opportunity. When I tell you this man was hovering over me like glued to my hip, it was just, I didn't have a break. I could barely go to the bathroom without him like being there. Oh, who are you on the phone with? Oh, let me see your phone. And like he constantly, that was not my phone, it was our phone.
Mm,
So it just, I felt failure, and I still carry that weight. And through healing, I'm making sure that I move a lot differently now with my children, and especially them being girls who are growing up to be beautiful women.
yeah.
Um, I've gone before, because God says in His Word that you're not for. How do you expect me to forgive you when you hold unforgiveness in your heart? So I had to make sure that before I went to God for forgiveness for my actions and what I did, I had to address my children. I sat all three of my babies down, and I got on my hands and knees, and I asked them to forgive me
Mm,
for what happened. And that day, we cried together. Hearing my baby say, "Mommy, you are forgiven. We do forgive you. We know that what you were up against." They don't hold any resentment towards me, which is something that I'm so thankful for, because it could have happened. Um, and my little three girls, they're Miss Independence now. They're like, I kind of feel bad because they're like, we're not getting married or having kids, and that may be part of stuff that they've seen. But um,
And how old are your children? I got more ask that.
I've
How
got
old are
15, 12, and 10, all girls,
all girl, all
all
girls.
girls. Yeah.
I'm as an investigator. Even though I'm hosting this, but my head is spinning as an investigator, and I know that in my investigations, I always when you start going uncovering certain things, you start seeing other patterns of criminal activity inside the
Hmm.
home, the sexual abuse with the mother, but also maybe sexual abuse with the children.
Hmm.
Is that a part of that in your relationship?
It was. Yep.
Okay.
It was. My kids, they suffered things that they shouldn't have because I wasn't strong enough to handle this person.
Mm.
And sometimes that, like, I don't understand why we went through this, or why God put this person in our life. But sometimes we have to realize God puts people in our life, and then so does the enemy.
That's
So
true.
yeah,
I'm a witness to that one.
all the
Yeah,
way, all
yeah,
the
that
way.
happens. That happens.
And
But
you would never think, and as a mother, I asked right questions. I, was attentive, but they just, things were being revealed, like, especially dealing with what I dealt with, like, far as that case I was telling you about. That's when a lot of things came out. A lot.
and since you mentioned it, there was a time because did he ever have a job? Did he ever have a job?
Yeah, so he did that first year. He had a job, had a real good job, was making money, and then he got hot headed one day at the job. This tow truck driver, he pulled out a gun on him,
So he's
and
he's known for carrying guns.
he is, yeah,
Wow. Did it,
and
did did he have a criminal background at the time?
he did, yeah. A lot of his background though was more for distribution, like, say he was selling drugs in the streets,
Okay.
and yeah,
Okay.
so
Okay.
um so yeah, he had the job, had a good job, a tow truck driver. Him and the tow truck driver got into it, and the tow truck driver actually pulled out a gun on him. And he quickly called me, and I have a background in HR, and I'm like, this could be an EEOC case. Just put your hands up and don't say anything. It's
Right.
all on camera, but just remain your composure. And the company didn't want to fire him. He chose to quit, and his verbiage to them was, well, my girl makes 70 a year, and I don't even have to work, so I'm gonna quit. So here I am back in the same situation, as a kid with the kid's father type, supporting another mouth. And it was hard for him to find employment after that.
So basically, he basically quit his job to let you take care of him.
Yep.
And he saw the. I'm gonna say it what it is. I'm not gonna put lipstick on a gorilla and make it pretty. It is what it is. Okay, gorillas are ugly. I don't
Yep.
care when you go to the zoo and see them. You can put a dress on them in your mind and some lipstick if you want to. They still ugly. And
Exactly.
and so here's your gorilla. Your gorilla is this man saying, "Okay, I got this honey hole over here. I
Mhm.
ain't got to work. I'm gonna depend on her. I'm finna just do what I want to do and kick back and let her take care of me."
Yep. And I was dumb enough to let it happen.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah.
Do
And to
you do
this
you?
day,
And I told you when we started, you are not the only woman that has ever been through that.
oh, I know it. I know it.
You are not. There is billions of women probably has
Yep.
went through that process and dealt with that. But that something sometimes we choose. We can choose that person.
Right.
Now you had a choice, but you
Right.
chose to be there at this particular point. You chose to be there, and
I,
so um, I say that because I'm not going to just give you say okay, wholehearted sympathy here because sometimes we got to take accountability too
absolutely. Oh,
in our
and
choices. I mean,
absolutely.
I've had to take the accountability in my choice of situations and relationships for years, and there's some choices that I made in my life. I wish I could go back and do it again. Uh, I have apologized on my show on numerous episodes prior to this one about certain things that I said to women and certain things I probably did that offended them. I apologize, and to this day I apologize because I know I am not the same person that I used to be. You grow up,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
yeah, and I'm not saying when I say that I'm not saying that I'm finna let a woman take care of me. That's not how I was raised.
Right.
Not that in that aspects of it. It just sometimes when you go through situations and you chose the wrong woman in your life, you kind of start judging everybody the same, and you get away from it when you feel like, oh, well, we getting too next to me. I'm like, let me move, let me get away from this one, that kind of thing. You just go through that in a period of time, especially in my 20s and 30s. I started getting much wiser in my 40s and started looking for certain things different. And still, in my 30s, late 30s and 40s, I still made bad decisions.
Right.
Uh, but so it's a learning process. I think everything that we do in life is a learning process, and you have went through a learning process with this. Uh, but it cost you because there was an incident that happened with you and him that you didn't even know that he was getting ready to do. And can you tell me about that? Can you tell our viewers about that incident?
Um so yeah, this man, he, it's funny because it's like you read about these stories that a lot of women go through, like, with it could be like women who are in the streets who are, forced to get into that sex trafficking and things like that. I
Mm-hmm.
almost felt like I was in a situation like that. This man, like, if golly, I came home one day 3 minutes late, and at the time I thought I was so cool. I had my little Altima, and it had a sunroof, and
Yeah.
when I was allowed to drive home, I had put my sunroof back. And one day I came home, he said, "Oh, your hair is messy. What's going on with that?" And I was like, "I'm literally 3 minutes late. Like, what do you think I did?" Um, so, he would put me on punishment. And punishment was, um, he would pay a prostitute to commit a sexual act with him, and I was forced to watch. That was my punishment.
Are you
Yeah,
Whoa,
those are things that I dealt with.
whoa! Wait a minute. So this guy got that bold to the point he would bring a prostitute inside your home?
No, no, he wouldn't bring it to the home. He would literally get one off the street, and
Oh
it's
wow!
like backseat, and that was my punishment.
To
And
watch him in the back seat.
yep.
Wow.
And I felt like, as a woman, it's like I'll be very honest, because I'm very, very honest. Because I'm not that person today. I wish a man would today.
Yeah.
Um, I was such a weak female. Um, and so broken and hurt because I didn't have my father in my life. My stepdad was not a dad in my life. He was just there. And I didn't have that example. I didn't have somebody to tell me how a man should be. My mom had issues with my biological father and my stepdad. So it's like I was looking just for love. And then it's like, maybe this is love. Maybe abuse is love for me. That's my ending.
Mm.
But then things started getting worse. The only thing that was going for me that was good was just, I was excelling at my job. And, that was the one thing that I could do right. So that's the one thing that Indy was good at, not the girlfriend of him, not the mother of the children. Indy was good at what she was doing. So I always excelled at my job. I was increasing in my position, and he grew to resent me for that. There was a little bit of jealousy. Um, so one day I'm sitting there. We had a home in Wichita, Kansas,
Mm.
and the police not kick in my door. And there's a what are the big tanks? There's a tank. There's a tank coming in my backyard. I've got beams on me and the kids, and my dog at the time, I had a beautiful German Shepherd, all black. She was she's barking, and she ends up getting off of the leash and lunging at the police officer. So natural reaction was for them to
Yeah.
shoot her, and so my kids saw the dog, um, but we next thing you know, I'm in handcuffs. And, kids are crying. He's in handcuffs. And he's like, oh, I didn't do nothing. I didn't do nothing. And I'm in handcuffs. And I'm like, what is going on? And the officer's like, you know what you did. And I'm in the back of a police car. Never been in the back of a police car before.
Mm.
And here I am. So when I get to the station, I'm in this room. Here come detectives from Dallas. And they start showing me pictures. They start questioning me. What do you know about this? We know that you know
So
something.
you're not in Texas. You're in a different state.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So this the crimes happen in Texas.
In Texas.
So the Dallas Police Department at the time investigate these crimes, and therefore they done followed you where you went.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. Found out because it was him and his brother that were committing the crime. So this was going on while we were actually in Texas. And the way this man played it was so like it's crazy now that I look at it. And sometimes I have to look at myself and be like, how Fred Sanford would tell his son, you big dummy. Like like that sometimes I'm going back to that. Um but one day he was like, hey, um, I think you should really be close to your mom. It's your family's there. Like, it'll be good move. Like, let's go ahead and move to Kansas because that's something that I wanted to do. And so he made it out to be, his idea. Well, lo and behold, he wants to go to Kansas because he's been robbing people out here.
Right.
So now he needs to get away. And I'm not thinking nothing of it. So
Are you aware of these robberies at all?
no, no. So I was in the vehicle of one, um, and literally it was just I was in the back. I was in the passenger seat. I'm sorry, I was in the passenger seat, and I was working. I was constantly working. I'd take my little laptop to the grocery store because I'm closing deals on houses and making sure paperwork is coming through, loans are being paid, and things like that. So I was always, you'd always see people say there goes Indy with her Mac laptop, constantly working. So we went to his brother's children's mom's house, and um, he was like, hey, I'm gonna go pay my phone bill, and I said, okay, I'll ride with you. Just totally innocent. Like, I'll ride with you. I'm not doing anything. And we were gonna stop at the store and grab some drinks for the kids. And he's so he parks the car. Nothing weird about the way he parks the car. It's totally innocent. All right, I'll be back.
Okay.
Goes in the store and comes right back out. Like, it's just natural. Nothing was in his arms. Nothing was in his hands. I don't see any weird movement. He literally gets in the car, starts, and you know how the movies are, like when they're committing crimes, they're nervous, they're ready to go into none of that. Just calm, smooth sailing,
Mm.
and goes back to makes a stop at the gas station. And I remember to that day, I remember seeing the police going the opposite way, because the store has now called the police, going the opposite way with the sirens. And I was like, dang, I wonder what happened. I
Yeah.
hope everything's okay. Well, lo and behold, you're sitting next to the dummy that robbed this store. And and they pinged my cell phone.
Wow.
Yep.
So, I mean, we kind of talked about this before we got on recording. They basically tried to say to implement you in there as well, as you was a part of that. And most people, and so this is my opportunity to educate people. Most people sometimes don't realize that when a felony is committed, and I worked in the state of Arkansas, but when a felony is committed, and you got 3 or 4 people in the vehicle. One person go up and do something,
Hmm.
and the other person comes out. They might not be aware of what took place, but later on they find out about it, and it's like they don't say nothing, and they wind up find out they get the same charges because you got to understand something. There's a ample amount of time for everything to take place, and sometimes people say, "Wait, I'm not a snitch. I'm not. I ain't telling on nobody." And law enforcement, we're aware of that. The
Hmm.
laws are aware of that. How people think and how people perceive crime to be. And sometimes you're gonna have people in the car that knows about everything. They don't want to go in there like, and they thinking, I ain't finna get in trouble for that. But technically, yes, you are, because you
Because
have a
you're there.
responsibility. Yeah, you there. You have a responsibility to tell that person, hey, don't do this. Or you can say, look, let me get out of the car. I'm gonna stay here for the police. Those kind of moves right there convinced me as a detective you ain't a part of it because and if you're trying to get yourself away from it, you stand right there. I'm gonna stay right here. That let me know you on the up and up.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
didn't have that opportunity.
I didn't. Not at all.
You didn't have
And
that opportunity at all because you didn't know nothing. So he come out the store, he's calm, so he's very cool and collect. This is not his first one. This is not his first rodeo. He's used to doing this. He's a
hmm
professional at this. He knew what to do when to get in the car with you to keep you in cool because you know you's working. So he played that to his advantage. He
yeah,
played that to his advantage.
he definitely did. I mean, that man excelled in manipulation. And just hearing some of the jail calls that he would have when he would just say, man, God's gonna get me out of this. God's gonna bless me. I know it. I'm taking it to trial. And looking at it now, like if I was to have a conversation with him, and I will tell you, I did have a conversation with him face to face after this situation was over.
Yeah.
Um, God's not gonna do that. God God had his hand in this case. When I tell you God sat me down to make me open my eyes and see what happened, he stripped freedom from me. Dealing with this case, I was on an ankle monitor for a year and a half. My lawyer, like I constantly be in communication with the lawyer. Look, I need to get off the ankle monitor. I have 3 children that I'm raising, and I can't even go enroll them in school because
Wow.
these people are telling me I can't leave the house. I can't go get groceries. I had to beg my ankle monitor lady, "Hey, it's my daughter's birthday. Can I just take her to Walmart and buy her a gift?" We had to do a birthday party at Walmart for my
Damn.
little one. Calling everybody, "Hey, look, they've let me go. I've got an hour. Everybody meet me at Walmart. We're going to do something."
So you did a birthday party at
At the
Walmart for your daughter.
at the Subway in Walmart. Yes.
Wow.
It was that bad. And then in the situation, I didn't have family in Texas, so I was living with some people, and the greed was just outrageous. Like it's just like, everybody had their hand out. Everybody
Mm.
had their hand out. Well, I'm helping you, so I need that filled, you
So,
know?
um, let me ask you something. What is things that you could provide and give someone? What would be the advice for you to give someone that's either have gone through what you've gone through or even facing that today in a similar case? What is advice that you could give them uh, from what you experienced in your life with this? What advice would you give them to get out of this situation? How to handle it? What would you tell them?
I would tell them that you don't stop believing. And God said that there is power in the tongue. So when if you're dealing with a case, you speak freedom. God, I will have freedom. My prayer, I used to pray every single day. I was fasting. I was praying through the situation. My prayer would always be, God, you have your will because I messed up. I know where I messed up. When things were being revealed and things that I lacked as a mother, a person, and my mistakes, I didn't ask God for freedom. I didn't ask God, you beat this case. I asked God to have his will in my life. And I did wrong eh, as a child of God. So sometimes we get them little whelps from those old school whoopings with the switch.
Yeah.
I God can give that to me, and He did. But God did give me freedom, but I am still paying for the mistakes. Like it's like God said, you know what? I'm letting you make it, but you got to feel it, and I am. That's why when storms come my way, and they're still coming, I still wake up and it's like God says, okay, I'm going to throw this your way and I'm going to see what you do with it. And now the person I am today, I got laid off 2 weeks ago.
Mm.
I cried on Thursday, cried on Friday, cried a little bit on Saturday. Monday, I woke up and I said, I will not be defeated. I said, God, you work it out. You
Mm.
put me where you want me to be. I'm not going to cry no more.
Good.
I know I got a felony. I know it's going to be hard. I got the kids and stuff like that. But you know what? God going to work it out. So anybody going through a situation like this, do not stop having faith. Do not stop believing. He may not work it out the next day, the month, the year, but baby, he's going to work it out. I promise you that. It take a mustard seed of faith, and you sow your good seeds. So when you give $1 to a homeless person, that's sowing a good seed. When you give your last, that's sowing a good seed. Um, Being there for people, do good by and do right by people. Don't if somebody's yelling at you, don't be quick to yell at them back. Do them right and kill them with kindness. So walk correctly, walk in faith, and always remember God said, walk by faith and not by sight. And know that your life is in his hands, but you got to be a believer.
Wow.
No.
I don't think that I could probably say that better than what you just did for our viewers and listeners. And I think this show has really been more powerful than I thought
Oh, that's
because
awesome.
because of the things that you said, and you've been very honest about it, and you shared your experience. And I always tell people when they on my show, your experiences are your experiences, and nobody can take those away from you. Uh, when something happens to you, the way you took it and the way it happened to you and the way you dealt with it is only you, and it's your story to tell.
Yep.
And I'm gonna be honest with you. I believe that God is going to continue to bless you because look at what how we met.
Yeah, that was amazing. Definitely
Yes,
was.
look at how we met. And so, not knowing that this was going to come out of that meeting, and I always tell people, I think that I meet people on divine and intervention. I think God put them in my path for me to talk, to have a conversation with them, and as people say, I can talk to anybody. I've always been that way, to talk to anybody,
Right.
and so. And that's just who I am. Even when I was working at the state fair, uh, at 2.4 million people. I know I didn't talk to that
Wow.
2.4 million people, but I talked to a lot of people.
I bet. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fair. I
I
know
had
you're
some.
happy it's over.
Yeah, I had some serious conversations down there, and I met people who wanted to be on my show. We talked about that, so who knows? Something might transpire from that. But I'm blessed to meet you. I'm blessed to have you on my show as a guest. Um, if anything that I can do for you to help you better your life, do not hesitate to reach out to me and to reach out to 954 Miles because we believe in helping people. My co-host is Christy McDonald. She lives in now Omaha, Nebraska. She couldn't be on the
Nice.
show tonight because well, the show today. She couldn't be on the show because she has some personal business she had to deal with. So we still have to carry on. And so, with that saying, I want to thank you again for coming on my show. Thank you for your testimony. Thank you for what you shared with 954 Miles of Conversation. Um, it don't get no better than that. This is real conversation, people. Real conversation and what happened to real people. And so, and if you are a viewer or listener, you know that someone else has going through this, like Indy, you aware of that, or if there's some resources that Indy can use to help her in her situation to move forward in life, please don't hesitate to reach out to us and give us that information in the Texas area. And I definitely want to pass that on to make sure you get it and get the help that you deserve, especially your children.
Thank
And I'm
you.
gonna be honest with you. Um, uh, Nobody can get over that in 4 or 5 years. So counseling, find someone that you can talk to. I mean,
Yep.
I like the fact is that you're talking now because this dialogue helps. People don't really believe that and understand that sometimes, but talking about something helps.
It
We want
does.
to we want to keep stuff inside, and that's where the stress comes, and that's where the health issues come from. Having that conversation, talking about it, help us more than what we really think, and in the long run. So, with that being said, I want to thank you again for coming on my show. I really enjoyed it. And to my viewers and listeners, this is 954 Miles of Conversation, where we explore boundless conversation 1 mile at a time. And as you can see, we have really explored a conversation today. Okay? Until next time, see you when I see you.